Because a lot of companies want their people to do a golden door. And that's a great thing, right? But all these guys, dude, they wanted to do a golden door. That was their goal. And so we were just there to support them and help them. And every one of the reps needed different things, right? And I think we made a plan going out to the summer. Some reps needed, dude, more phone calls. Some reps needed, hey, dude, when I'm having a bad day, I need you to rip into me. Some reps needed, dude, just to be told they're loved and thought about. So that's another, I think, key for those guys was, dude, it was their goal, not ours. And what my job became as a leader was to help them hit their goal.
Welcome everybody out to the D2D podcast. I'm your host, Roz. We got a special edition episode of the Golden Door Deep Dive. We've been interviewing a lot of the Golden Door winners of 2024, and now we kind of dialed it back a little bit and like, who are the managers of these Golden Door winners? Some of the OGs in the space. So we got Parker Anderton with us, one of the GOATs, legend among men. I'll let him kind of tell his story. So Parker, welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you.
Thanks, dude. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So dude, dive in. I want to hear the beginnings of and Genesis 1 verse 1 of Parker Anderton.
Cool. So yeah, dude, I was, the way that it all started was, summer sales back in the day in 2012, I don't think was as out there in
Wasn't
Utah.
as sexy.
Yeah. And I essentially was a poor college student, who didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had big dreams and aspirations, but didn't know the vehicle that would kind of help me get to those. And it's funny, I had a random roommate at King Henry in Provo, Utah. And the dude is so funny to talk about now. He drove a Saab 9.5, which at the time was like, you don't ever see Saabs anymore, but it was like a sick car. He paid cash for it. And I remember a day specifically where he was like, dude, I think I want to get into skiing today. And he went out and he bought new skis, a ski pass. And I'm like, dude, I'm out here donating plasma twice a week. I'm working full time. I barely have time to sleep between school, paying for school, all this stuff, right? And turns out he was like, yeah, dude, I made really good money selling pest control door to door. So I was like every recruiter's dream. I pretty much walked in and signed the paperwork and was like, dude, if that's the case, let's go out and do it. That was year one. I had no goal that year. My goal was just to finish. I don't think I was a finisher most of my life, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so my goal wasn't to make some amount of money. It was just to like prove to myself that I could do it. So I finished, made good money, but interestingly enough, I didn't get that back end until I was on my mission. So I never got to really experience what it was like to get a back end. Got home from the mission, decided I wasn't going to sell again. It was too hard, right? Started working like a quote unquote real job.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden I started to realize like the value of, I guess, money. And that's when I kind of went into selling again. Next 2 to 3 years, sold, got a little bit better every year, but never recruited. So something cool for a lot of people listening about my story and where I think it's really relatable to a lot of other people is, dude, I was in the industry for almost 4 or 5 years with like 0 recruits. Super frustrated. I had recruited 2 or 3 people, they would fall off. Recruit 2 or 3 people, fall off, and I was just done recruiting. And my story, really started then. I remember Ben said something simple to me. It was like, dude, you have every excuse in the world to like not be successful. At some point, you just need to start putting in the work and just give yourself no other option. Went out that year, finally recruited a team of like 25 guys. And then from that point on, it just soared. And I remember at the time, and where this is relevant, I think is, dude, I had no idea. I didn't almost believe I could be successful because I'd had 4 years of teaching me I could be successful at sales, but not at recruiting. Mm. It's crazy how fast that can change, right? And then, 4 or 5 years down the road, my organization did $38.5 million this last year. We had 16 golden doors in mine and my partner's downline. And again, 4 or 5 years ago, dude, I was just a dude who was selling. I didn't have any recruits. So
yeah. And let me just plug in real quick. Can you imagine if you didn't buckle down on recruiting?
Oh, dude.
Imagine the impact that's not there.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people probably listening to this that are in that same boat, that are like on that verge. You see that meme about someone who digs all the way to like the gold mine and then quits right before they get there. So if there's one message that I think is super relatable and hopefully can resonate, is like, dude, don't give up. You can be successful, but sometimes not everyone's story takes the same amount of time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So what changed?
Dude, it's a great question. I think one of the things is I really was letting every excuse kind of like plague my mind of why I wasn't successful. Oh, I'm getting older. You know, you start had all these excuses that write the story of why I'm unsuccessful.
I've tapped out my network.
Word for word said that. I don't have a network, whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that started changing, where instead of giving myself excuses and reasons why I wasn't being successful, it was like, look, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do everything. If I have to knock doors, which I did, I knocked doors in Provo. And instead of recruiting them to, you know, buy pest control, I was recruiting them to be recruited.
Yeah.
You know, I did booths. I called my mom. I called my dad, my cousins. I was like, look, I'm just going to do everything. I'm going to exhaust every option and not give myself any excuses to not succeed. So that translates to a lot of things, right? But specifically in my story, that was such a big change, was just really telling myself the story that I could be successful, not writing the story of all the reasons I'm not successful.
Yeah, because you take the guy who has been recruiting for like a couple years, but really he just, you know, texted a couple buddies from his mission and then he gives up too quickly. And then he's like, well, I tapped out on my network. No one's really interested. And maybe he even tries like shoulder tapping or like things like that, but doesn't go all in like that. So what does it really take to like shift that mentality from like that scarcity mindset into the abundance mindset?
Yeah, I think a huge thing is the people that you're around, right? I'm way glad that I bet on people like Ben Egan, who were willing to tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And we all have those friends that we call them, we tell them why we're not successful, and they agree with us, and they kind of, you know,
They validate you a little too much.
So that was a huge thing for me, was being around people that like saw me. And let me think about how to articulate this better. They didn't see me as I was, but they saw me as my potential, and they were willing to be the type of friends exactly that pushed me to reach that potential.
Yeah, and I think having people close by like that is the most like mind-altering experience, because sometimes all it takes is for someone else to believe in you that you can do it, for you to actually kickstart the process into that.
Dude, I could talk for hours about the concept of like belief. And you know, people will harp on the grit for the amount of golden doors we have, or different things, but I've thought a lot about like what is different about the grit, right? And dude, it's not that we're the one true pest control company, right? Yeah. It's not that we're saying things different, but what you just said, I think you hit the nail on the head. There is this thing that happens internally when you have people believing in you.
Yeah.
And when the people believing in you have done some of those things, right? There's just, belief can totally change everything.
Yeah, and I've seen that personally. Like after having interviewed, you know, dozen plus of your guys, and you know, this isn't meant to be the grit show or whatever it is, but hey, let's call a spade a spade. We talked about this, and it's like, you know, I'm talking to guys who genuinely look me in the eye and they believe in themselves more than they believe the sky's blue. And it's like, that's beautiful. That's life. That's impact.
Sure.
And, you know, creating that kind of culture and, you know, kind of tying it back to like your origins as an all-star recruiter, you know, you taking those first steps into going all in with that. Like it just all kind of ties in beautifully, doesn't it? Yeah. So kind of going back to that, you know, those first few steps and becoming an all-star, you know, you're actually genuinely putting your boots to the ground. You know, Provo's an interesting recruiting market. For those of you listening, Provo is like the hub of all things door-to-door recruiting. Like if you think your solar market saturated, like your recruiting market is ultra saturated in Provo. It's one of those things where you say, hey, I work for a pest control company. They probably already know the grit. They know Vivint. They know all the companies. You shoulder tap a guy on BYU campus and they're like, summer sales? Not for me. So what are some of your like tips and tricks for navigating that kind of saturation?
So a couple quick thoughts on that. The first one is like, don't be afraid to get creative. What I mean by that is I remember my very first like recruit when I decided to go all in on it, his name was Isaac Pingree. The way I found him was calling my mom and I said, look, Mom, I have this feeling that I want to be a recruiter. I want to make this work, but I suck at recruiting right now. So if you come across anyone that you think of that would benefit from this job, send them my way. I get a call from my mom and she's like, hey, there's this kid that just got back from his mission. Not really probably what you'd think was like the most salesy type. But anyway, I talked to his mom.
Yeah, I know Isaac.
Yeah.
I remember him from those days too.
So, and the funny thing was my mom, I didn't know Isaac. He was, I think, 5 years younger than me.
Yeah, he was younger than me. And
but he goes, and my mom's like, look, I talked to his mom. I told her how much the experience has changed your life and she's going to get you his number. Right.
Yeah.
So that was cool, right? Just finding different ways to recruit where it doesn't always just have to be you reaching out to your friends. Like my family has seen the way this job has impacted me, has seen the way that it has changed the trajectory of my future. And so they're amazing recruiters for me, very authentically, because they can talk about the experience from their son, right? So that was one way I got creative. I'm trying to think of other things. The other thing too that was interesting is there's a quote that I've heard recently that I wish I would have known back then. It's people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Where I also just changed my expectations, where I was so sad for so long I didn't have 100 or 200 or whatever guys. And that first year I was like, look, let's set a realistic goal. Let's try and get to 25 guys. And the goal changed. So this is, I guess, the second tip. For a long time, I wanted to recruit guys so I could make money. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think people feel that, right?
Yeah.
That year, especially after that experience with my mom, it was like, cool, this job has changed my life. Dude, there's a ton of people out here working at PacSun and working at Zoomies that's their best alternative.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to actually find people that, you know, I could change their life like this job has changed mine. And just that simple like mindset flip really changed the way that I recruited. I feel like I was drawn to people for a different reason. I wasn't seeing them as dollar signs. I was listening to their stories, their objections differently, because I actually wanted to bring something into their life that could be life-changing.
Yeah, you actually cared.
Yeah.
Which I think is a huge fallacy within the industry, is how many recruiters don't actually care.
For sure.
And I have been quoted on the record as saying, like, you are a morally irresponsible leader if you look at your people like they are dollar signs. And so talk to me though about that shift. Is it, you coming at it from the angle of like, oh, well, like this changed my life so much, I want to change your life? Like kind of like, oh, this is like I'm a missionary for this. For sure. The gospel changed my life, therefore I'm on this mission. Or, what really genuinely sparked that, that you care about people?
Yeah, I just remember the best thing so I don't remember exactly how I got all the people into the first meeting, because a lot of it was just creative, reaching out to people. But once people were there or meeting with me, I tried to really listen to them, really listen to what did they want out of life? Not what can you give me out of this experience, but what can I give you out of this experience? And I remember having a little notes tab on my iPhone, and I would write down things that people would say, goals that they had, things that they would do if they were able to make X amount of money. And so I feel like I really thought about those things a lot. And the interesting thing was that year I recruited like 25 or something like that. I think 23 came out and like 19 re-signed, which is at the time really good numbers.
Yeah.
And I believe
this is what, 2000
would have been 5 years ago. So
okay, no,
2017, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But the interesting thing is, again, people can feel authenticity. And because I was thinking about them and their goals and what they could get out of it, it was really easy to also motivate them, right? When they would have a bad day, it wasn't, hey, dude, stop being soft. It was like, hey, dude, remember when we talked about how, dude, you could go through medical school for like with way less debt? Dude, today sitting on the curb, that's not going to get you there. Dude, I know that you're doing this job so that you're showing up today for your future self. So let's do that. So I think it just all came back to the initial intention with recruiting them. And obviously, dude, I get it. Like, I'm also making money.
Yeah.
But you kind of get both. When you start to focus on the person more, the money follows.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, a big thing is, again, I don't remember exactly how I got into the first meeting with those guys.
Yeah.
But I really tried to create an environment where they felt like I cared about them. I cared about their success. I cared about their future. I cared about their goals. And I was going to be someone in the process that would help them achieve that.
Yeah. And it was interesting. I had Drew in here the other day, and we were jamming about, recruiting and leadership and stuff like this. And really what it came down to was looking at it like, we're not in the pest control business. We're in the people business.
For sure.
Like our recruits, the people that we lead, those are our clients. And those are our most important clients. We take care of them.
For sure.
So now talk to me about leadership. What was because obviously, you retained a lot of your recruits at that point. So you were doing something right. You provided experience and you gave them earnings, sounds like. But like, talk to me about your learning of leadership. What were some of the pitfalls you went through? How did you learn it?
So That's a loaded question. There's a lot I could.
There's a lot there, yeah.
But I'll go back to what I think makes me, right? So my stepdad, Gary, who I love, and I think I'm so much of who I am because of him, he lived by a statement. I don't know if he ever actually said this, but this statement sums up how he lived. It was, parents may tell but never teach unless they practice what they preach, right? My dad would never ask me to do anything that he wasn't doing himself. And he always was that amazing example of to me, that was like leadership, right? So one of the things that I remember feeling really early on as a leader is like, I'm never going to ask my people to do something I won't do. So if I ask them to read a book, I'm going to have already read it. If I ask them to knock late, I'm going to be knocking later. If I ask them to work through adversity, I'm going to work through adversity. If I want my people to be able to sell in every type of area, then I need to put in the work to be able to actually sell in every type of area. Because again, just like with parenting, I think leaders will tell but never teach unless they practice what they preach.
Yeah.
And so that was the other thing that I learned, right? Is that I knew as a leader, and I hear something that I believe is false all the time, right? That you don't have to be the top one on the team. And maybe you don't have to, but I think that for a leader to have the max amount of impact, they need to actually lead from the front. Dude, your trainings hit harder when you're the guy who's selling the most, right?
Yeah.
And that's
because then they have the most influence.
For sure.
Because everyone wants to be the top guy.
For sure. And so I think that something that I learned really early on and something that I kind of put that pressure on myself was, look, if I'm going to be a leader, then I need to be the top guy on the team every year. And if people are getting better, then I got to push myself to get better, right? And so, again, for those people that have been on successful teams and they weren't maybe the top guy, you don't have to be. But what I've found is that your influence is magnified like crazy when you are that top guy. So there was that. Couple of like little things that I learned, because the question is like, what have I learned about leadership, right? Or,
yeah.
I had a really cool couple of experiences. My 2 summers ago was my last summer, like full-time on the doors. I did 8 summers where I was on the doors full-time, right?
Yeah.
My last summer was in Portland, and this is where I learned such an interesting principle of being okay with being a leader first and a friend second. And that's really tough, right? A lot of leaders want to be a friend and a leader. What I had to accept that year was, hey, like if I want to be a leader first and a friend second, sometimes I'm going to have to tell people things they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm going to have to call people out. Sometimes I'm going to have to, push someone to get more out of themselves. And the interesting thing is I think I became even more of a friend by doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think the essence of friendship is being honest.
Yeah. And there's one story to kind of articulate that. So I had this rep. He was doing good for most of the summer. Towards the end of it, dude, he just I found out that he was sitting in his car for like 3 days, right? And I remember thinking, okay, like what do I do in this situation?
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm gonna call him. So the first thing I did is I listened to him. I kind of heard out, his side of it. And then I was like, look, Parker, this what he needs right now is you to be a leader, not a friend. And so say what a leader would say. And I remember, kind of digging into him a little bit, not in a mean way, but like, dude, like again, here was your goals, here was your dreams. Like, dude, you don't get those by sitting on a curb. I know it's hard, but dude, prove to yourself today the type of, man you're going to be, so on and so forth. And really just tried to, again, have that hard conversation. Dude, the crazy thing is he went out and had his 3 best weeks ever, and he wrote me a handwritten letter. After that, dude, I get emotional even thinking about it right now of just the influence that had and how he'd had so many people in his life that had told him what he wanted to hear, not what he needed to hear. And how grateful he was that I was willing to step into that discomfort and tell him what he, again, needed to hear. And that taught me a huge lesson. That's something I try to teach to all my guys that I work with, all my leaders, is, again, sometimes being a leader, you might be the one they don't like at moments.
Yeah.
Right? You might be the one that has to tell them what they need to hear. But in doing so, you will help you will help them spread their wings.
Yeah.
So,
where do you draw the line between giving the truth, being a dick, and then also being their friend?
I think that the answer to that is built way before that conversation, right? That kid, dude, I had spent time with him. I had, dreamed with him, talked about his dreams and aspirations. I really got to know him. We had succeeded together. We had really developed a relationship. So I think that the answer to your question is, where is that line? When you develop real, authentic relationships with your people, you'll know that line. And because you have that emotional equity, you've built that trust, they will take that from you way better. And again, Ben Egan's that perfect example. He's told me some really, really tough things, given me some really tough conversations, but in the moment I hated it, right? But it got me so much better because, again, he had done all the work before that so that I was, that he could give me that type of feedback. Does that make sense?
It does. It's like, Stephen R. Covey talks about like the emotional bank.
Yes.
And like, you're always making deposits and withdrawals. So what I'm hearing you say is create as many deposits as you can with your people. So when those hard conversations come up, you're not, overdrawing the bank account.
And I'll give like one caution to that, right? Yes, but don't do it just because you want to build up this like stack of deposits.
Yeah.
It has to,
because then that comes off as fake.
Exactly. And you have to, and again, I'll tell you this, if you want the secret to like life, the secret to loving people, dude, talk less about yourself and more about other people. When you get to know your reps, even if they're different than you, have different dreams, like you will feel this bond to them, right? And so I just really believe, again, that if you want to know how to be able to have those conversations, start to develop real relationships with your reps. Start to, hear about their successes, hear about their failures, be someone that, is genuinely interested in their life.
Yeah.
And that's not like easy to do. That takes a lot of effort, right?
Yes. But, I mean, gosh, think about all the people skills, the listening skills, genuinely caring skills. There's so much that goes into that.
For sure.
It's a lot easier said than done. But the impact kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And it's cool to see that ripple effect and to talk to so many of your guys in your organization and like have them be like genuinely good dudes.
Yeah, dude, and I'll tell you another little story about that makes me think of this, right? Is, dude, I have people say all the time, right? You'll have people at other companies, other industries that, a lot of times there's only so much pie that goes out.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll be like, well, why aren't you making more money? You're doing this, right? And there's these, regionals or whatever you call them in other companies that are just making tons of money, but it's because it's at the expense of their people, right? One thing that I think is a true indicator of the health of your business is not how much money am I making, but how much money are like my people making. And honestly, again, there's the same amount of pie goes out, right? So hopefully if I'm making a little less than some other regional or something at another company, it's because if you look at the pie as it's divvied out, dude, my people are making amazing money throughout.
Yeah.
And the reason I tell you that is, dude, I've made really good money. And I'll tell you something that is way better than making money is having someone like that kid write you a letter about the impact that you've had on them, about, dude, texting you. I remember when he bought the dirt bike or whatever it was that he really wanted and how impactful and dude, that is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what's way cool is when you flip that switch of not what can you do for me, but what can I do for you? Dude, it's crazy what happens. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not about, hey, I want to make money off you. It's, hey, I want to help you make money. I want to help you hit your dreams. And the interesting thing is as you do that, I make great money too. We both make great money together.
It's a win-win.
For sure.
Yeah. One of my good friends, Aaron Doria, talks about that too. He's like, yeah, it's cool. Like every year it kind of is the same thing. Like once you made 250 grand in the summer, it's the same 250 grand the next year. But what's really cool is when you help someone else make that first 250 grand.
Oh, it's such a cool thing.
And he's like, that's when it changes your life. So now diving into really empowering your reps. So, because obviously you said 16 Golden Door winners within your organization this last year.
Yep.
How did you do it?
First and foremost, I don't want to take a lot of credit because, dude, at the end of the day, I wasn't the one knocking the doors. I wasn't the one, dealing with the objections. It was those guys, right? But some of the little things that my business partner, Skylar Griffin, and I did is I think we tried to create an environment where people knew that we, were there for them, right? We tried to create an environment where they could, rely on each other. There is strength in numbers. I totally believe that. And so we did a lot of training with those guys. We did a lot of one-on-ones with those guys. We talked about our stories, what it took for us to get Golden Doors. We, every single one of my guys that got a Golden Door was training with guys outside of my organization, like Drew and Seeger and all those other guys. So I think that was one thing, is just exposing them to a lot of other people that had done a Golden Door. Something that we have worked on that is a little bit different is I think you would probably think, hey, 16 Golden Doors, you probably worked a lot on the pitch, right? We didn't work that much on the pitch with those guys, right? What we worked on is, dude, the mindset. It's the self-belief. It's the thought patterns. It's the limiting beliefs that we have. And that was really cool, right? To see an internal change in our guys where they believed they could do it, right?
Only so many ways you can say 3 feet up, 3 feet out, right?
Exactly, right? And so that was one thing, right? I think we tried to create a culture where people felt supported and like they could do it. The second thing is, again, we trained a lot on mindset and worked on that. And I think that the other thing is that, dude, I didn't set that goal for people, if that makes sense, right? We got to know our people. We found, hey, they want to do a golden door, so how can we be a resource with you? And we created individual plans with all of them, right? Because a lot of companies want their people to do a golden door. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing, right? But all these guys, dude, they wanted to do a golden door. That was their goal. And so we were just there to support them and help them. And every one of the reps needed different things, right? And I think we made a plan going out to the summer. Some reps needed, dude, more phone calls. Some reps needed, hey, dude, when I'm having a bad day, I need you to rip into me. Some reps needed, dude, just to be told they're loved and thought about. So that's another, I think, key for those guys was, dude, it was their goal, not ours. And what my job became as a leader was to help them hit their goal. And what's cool is I just got to play a part in their story. It was their, they did it all, but I got to play a little part because they allowed me to be a part of their story. So
yeah, which is incredible. Something interesting, I've heard Seeger talk about is, kind of constantly auditing the group a little bit, cutting out the bad apples. How often are you having to have those conversations where you're getting rid of guys? How often are you like auditing the culture? Like, how do you really control that narrative?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, right, about that is, dude, we're not like sending people home, I don't think, to preserve the culture. The culture kind of creates itself. But what is happening, dude, is we're having those conversations all the time. If a rep isn't selling, it's not, hey, dude, you're gonna get fired if you don't start selling more. It's like, hey, dude, you wanted to be out here because you had this goal and this, like, what's holding you back? And hopefully, and this isn't the story always, but dude, we try to send reps home when it's just not making sense for them anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think the intent isn't that, hey, dude, I want my guys to hit a golden door and you're holding them back because you suck, so leave. Because then again, we're not thinking about the individual. But I think, dude, we're not afraid to send someone home if it's just not making sense for them, right? Mm-hmm. Or if they're not putting in the effort. So again, I don't know if there's an exact amount of times it's happening, but like, again, as a leader, I'm not afraid to call someone if I know they're not working and say, hey, dude, like, why are you out here? Like, I know why you're out here and you're not working. Like, what can I do to help you? Yeah. And if it's like, yeah, dude, I just hate this job. It's like, cool, dude, it's okay to go home. And so I think the bad apples, more than anything, I don't think it's as much of us cutting them off the tree. They kind of weed themselves out. Yeah. Because your ear is constantly to the ground and you know your guys and you know at what point they're going to be dipping out. For sure. It's not like, oh, well, like you had all these negative comments and you keep complaining about this, like you're out of here. It's more like you just see it coming well before anything like that happens. Yeah. Which is interesting. Very unique approach, I'd say. Yeah. But like, it's a very like tactful one though. But also, again, much more carefully cultivated over a long period of time and getting to know your guys, it sounds like. For sure. Now talk to me about, growth and how you like expect to grow and like, the plans moving forward, basically. Do you mean like personally, or ask that question maybe within your organization? Yeah. Like, how do you plan on growing it? I think a huge focus for me right now is, again, just my leadership. You can only grow as fast as your leaders, right? Like, so we're trying to pour a lot of time and resources and money and things into our leaders, and helping our leaders create other leaders. And I think that's where the growth is going to come, because, again, we can go out and recruit a ton of people, but if they're not having that same type of experience where they're thought about, their leader is, intentional with them, then we're going to continue to lose people, right? So that's, again, everything that we're doing right now is really focused on like helping create that next generation of leaders, teaching them not only how to recruit, but how to retain, how to be an ethical leader, how to have hard conversations, because again, if we can create that next generation of leaders, it's going to continue to grow naturally. Yeah. Right. But I've seen that happen time and time again, where if we don't create the leaders, we'll recruit really well and people will fall off because they don't have a leader that's close to them that's taking good care of them. So that's a huge emphasis right now. Because it's just more work for you at that point, because you're not duplicating yourself. Exactly. The second thing I think, as far as like growth, like where we're really focusing right now is just at least at the Grit, we're just trying to sophisticate everything, have more systems and more processes. Do we want anyone to come in and work with us and be able to be in a really efficient system that helps them, that has a track record of success, right? So there's that. We just finished our building, which is really fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a sick building.
fun to have a home. And then I think I am also redefining myself.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, dude, I'm really trying to get, my life in order, trying to, really always have that internal happiness, be growing myself so that I can continue to have things to give to my people, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And dude, I'm way excited. Like something that I'm transitioning into is, dude, I have basically been in the space for over 10 years. And like a new mantra that I'm trying to live by is like, dude, if you're working at any company, solar, pest, or whatever, and you want to let me turn 10 years of experience into 1 year for you. Let me take the experience that I've had, the things I've learned, and let me mentor you and coach you and teach you. So again, don't take 10 years like me. Let's turn a decade into a year.
Yeah.
Or a decade into a month. And so I'm trying to really look at my last 10 years. What did I learn and figure out how I can teach that to people.
Yeah. Because again, it's just a dummy tax that people pay. People will go those 10 years when really they could circumvent that and work with a mentor, that's someone that's already paid the piper, and they will give them that wisdom immediately.
For sure.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm something that I've evaluated over the last few months of my life, separate from work, just like, dude, what makes me happy?
Yeah.
Right. And again, one of those things is my family, is my daughter.
Yeah.
Is, being present for her in her life. But when it comes to work, dude, the thing that makes me the most happy is what we talked about. It's that impact. It's helping someone else make their first $100,000 or helping them hit their dreams. And so that's what I realized. Just again, it really does bring me like fulfillment. True happiness is helping people experience that. So I'm looking for people, right?
Yeah.
That I can help, that are willing to put in the work and are going to have those type of experiences. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me about like the actual like recruiting meetings. How do you know if they're a right fit for you guys? How do you know when to like bring them on? How do you know when to let them out?
Yeah. I don't think there is a right fit for us. And here's what I mean by that. Dude, I have been in this industry long enough that I've seen everything under the sun. I've seen different cultures, different backgrounds, different income levels, different ethnicities, different genders, different upbringings, all be successful. And what I mean by that is, again, I'm not looking for like a specific type of person because I've seen enough variety that can be successful. So the recruiting meeting, what I'm trying to do is really get to know you and your goals and again, what you want to get out of it. And then my job as a recruiter is not to paint a picture about some other company. I don't want you to come with me because I can make whatever other decision you're considering look bad. I hate that. I hate that. I want you to come with me because you see the value that I can bring. You see the value that my partner can bring. You see the value that the grit can bring. And that's the only reason, right? I try to really avoid talking about other companies in my recruiting meeting because again, I don't want you to come with me because
classy.
they look, but like actually, right? I want you to come with me because of what I have to bring, not because of what other company doesn't have or something. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So I try to really focus on that. And then I tell people like, look, you don't have to work with me. What this is we're trying to see if, dude, do you believe that what we have can help you achieve your dreams and goals? So to, I guess, summarize that, again, I'm not looking for a specific type of person. What I'm looking for is someone who sees the value in what we have.
Yeah.
And when they come into that, dude, they're going to thrive. I don't want to strong arm you into working with us. I don't want to dupe you into working with us. I want you to, again, see the value of what we're bringing and that be in line with what you're looking for.
Yeah. Was that a difficult process for you to learn?
Dude, so difficult. Recruiting is the hardest thing in the world, dude. Like, it's so hard. Recruiting to me, I think, is way harder than selling.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I mean, it took a lot of years of doing it the wrong way, right? And as I remember, as I started recruiting, I recruited off everything that didn't matter. The deal, I'll pay you more than that other company. Oh, that other company sucks. And what's interesting is as I transitioned and started to talk less again about other companies and less about the deal and about the things that actually matter. Like, dude, what do you care about? Care about earnings. So let's talk about what influences your earnings. It's the training, the culture, the leadership, the environment, all that stuff. As I had that transition, I noticed how the people on the other end of the desk responded, right? So it's been a very painstaking process learning it, but it's really fun. I don't feel like a slimy recruiter.
Yeah.
Right. And for a long time, I felt like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a me thing. I don't know, but now I don't feel like that. And so that's, again, where I'm at, where, dude, there's a lot of people who want to recruit and haven't had success. And again, I want to turn 10 years of doing it the wrong way and learning and, turn that into a year for you so you can learn how to recruit the right way and learn how to recruit people that want to work with you and that see the value of you and your company and so on and so forth.
Totally. And speaking to that, you've been in the industry a long time.
Sure.
What are the biggest mistakes you see?
First from me or from like the industry as a whole?
The industry as a whole.
Yeah. So I think one of them is I think people ask the wrong questions, right? I think if you think about it differently, here's what I mean by that. Everyone's always asking, well, what percentage are you paying? Or which company pays the most? You saw that post from Sam the other day, right? Dude, what people care about, and I understand most people are doing this job because again, they want to get something out of it, right? Typically money.
Yeah.
Right? Well, dude, what leads to you making money? It's not, again, you're paid whatever industry you're in on a variety of things. It's again, the amount of accounts you sell, the value of those contracts, the retention of those contracts, then the percentage. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And so I think a mistake that is made is people focus on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Right? And something important with that is understanding, again, like who is going to be leading you. I don't think people really think, or I think people discount the power of culture and of leadership, right? And here's an example of that. Tom Brady, who I used to hate. I'm a big Chiefs fan. So now that he's retired, I can love him, right? Yeah. The more I've learned about Tom Brady's story, dude, it's crazy. And feel free to like fact check me on this, but it's something to this effect. The Patriots went to the playoffs for 8 years consecutively. Those same 8 years, I think the Bucs didn't even go to the playoffs like one of those years. All of a sudden, Tom Brady switches to the Bucs, and for the first year, the Patriots don't make it to the playoffs. And not only did the Bucs go to the playoffs, they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. To me, that speaks to the power of leadership. Dude, what really changed on the Bucs? Not that much, but you had a leader who changed the way that a team that had historically not been good, had historically not gone to the playoffs, and one leader changed the way those people viewed themselves, changed the way they worked, changed their belief system, and look what happened. And so I think a really important question to ask especially if you're like looking to sell, whether you're a vet, is like, who is going to be leading me? Who is leading not only my team, who's leading the company? Those are important questions.
So important. Because way too often, I got recruited by just like, fly-by-night mission buddy. I didn't know what questions to ask. And I literally look back on that experience. I would have made more money literally going anywhere else with them because the leadership was so piss poor.
For sure.
And it's like, that's a huge reason I'm at where I'm at with Sam, is because it's like, well, we got to empower leaders. We got to help create this culture. You know what I mean?
For sure. So yeah, that's one mistake. I think another huge mistake, and maybe this is a controversial thing to say, right? But so many people think that the reason they're not successful is because their pitch sucks. Dude, like I have guys that I work with that'll come in and they'll say, oh, dude, the reason I wasn't good is because my switchovers suck. And what I've found is when I train guys, I train very little on the technical skills. And I train way more on like the mindset, the belief system, how to develop that. Yeah. Because this is what I found. Kid comes in, says the reason he sucks is switchovers, hypothetically. Yeah. I then teach him how to do switchovers. He goes out and has about the same results. And it's because what happens is, dude, I don't care how good you are at switchovers. If you're sitting in the car, you can't go apply that knowledge. Dude, I don't care how good you are at switchovers. If after every no, you beat yourself up and you decrease your confidence between doors, doesn't matter if you have a sick switchover pitch, you can't apply that. Does that make sense?
It does, because then you're eliminating the action piece of it.
Exactly. And I think Tom Brady, again, I love Tom Brady now. Dude, he like has a story. People only see Tom Brady sometimes as what he is now. Yeah. But he was drafted 199th, right? In the NFL draft. He like wasn't even a starter in high school or college. But what happened is he worked so much on that belief system, I think, right? So I think that's a huge mistake in the industry and in sales in general is people, I'm not saying don't train. I'm not saying don't learn the pitch.
Of course, you gotta learn. You gotta learn it.
But again, at the Grit, I've been able to rub shoulders, work with, train with so many top leaders, and I've realized that is what sets them apart. It's that they have worked so much on that aspect of it, the mindset, the self-belief, the self-talk, and that's one of the reasons I think we have a lot of guys that are doing a golden door. But again, what we're not talking about in this podcast is dude, we also have a ton of guys in the middle that are selling $400K, $300K, like a lot. And dude, those guys are the same way. What separates them is that they're so good at that self-talk, that self-belief.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I remember, we asked Seeger to speak at D2D Con. And Sam's like, have them train on, first 30 seconds, the door approach, overcoming objections. So I hit him with that. He's like, okay. And then he gets up D2D con. He's like, guys, I'm going to talk about mindset. He's like, yeah, well, obviously, we got the pitch. Pitch is what it is, but mindset is much, much more important, because without that, you have nothing. You could know basic information about pest control, and if you have an iron, steel clad mindset, you'll probably go sell. Like, nothing will outbeat any of that.
And again, I fully testify to what Seeger said. I believe that. And I think that's, again, people ask a lot of times that at other companies, like, what is different about the grit? It's like, we're all, at least in the pest control space, we're all selling pest control, right? And I think it's the focus on that. And it's been really cool to work with people like Seeger, who are such an amazing example of that. And yeah, I think that's spot on.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I want to talk about belief now.
Oh, my favorite topic in the world.
Because I've done over 60 interviews now at Golden Door winners. And if there is a common theme among common themes, it is self-belief. If you do not believe that you can't do a Golden Door, you will not get a Golden Door. If you can't believe that your organization is capable of producing Golden Door winners, it will not produce Golden Door winners. Give me your philosophy, your beliefs of self-belief.
Dude, so again, I think it's everything. I get so amped talking about belief, right? Wow, I got to formulate my thoughts on this. But yeah, dude, belief is everything. I believe that it is something that can be developed, right? I believe that you don't have to inherently, when I got into the door-to-door space, I was not someone who inherently believed in myself, right? If anything, it was like the opposite. I had a huge confidence in my lack of self-belief, right?
Yeah, the opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. And belief is a lot of things, right? So I think one of the things I've understood about belief is belief can be cultivated in a lot of ways. So for example, when you're around a lot of other people that are doing something that you want to believe in, it's easier for you to believe in it, right? Like wakeboarding. I love wakeboarding, and dude, I tried to do backflips for years and years and years and could never land them, but I literally was never seeing someone land them. So it's not only that I didn't believe that I could do it, I'm like, I don't believe anyone that's not a pro can do this, right?
You've never seen it done. Why would you believe it could be done?
So I go out wakeboarding with a bunch of guys that I know, and they're normal guys, and they go out and they do some backflips, and I'm like, oh dude, if they can do it, I can do it. And immediately I start landing them, right? That taught me, at least one thing about belief is that you can develop belief by being around other people that are doing whatever it is you want to do. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Proximity is power.
Proximity is power, for sure. Another thing about belief is, and this is something I am extremely bullish and emotional and just so is this, right? So if you're listening to this podcast, you should do this exercise. We don't, I think, understand the power of our own words and our own thoughts. And so I ask people to do this. I say, hey, pull out a notebook, and I want you to think about, again, if you're knocking doors or whatever type of sales you're in, write down some of the things that you say to yourself in between doors. And I want you to really get raw, really talk about the stuff that you say to yourselves. And the funny thing is if people are willing to be honest, most of the stuff we say to ourselves is, dude, I suck. I can't believe that person didn't buy. I'm knocking behind someone. Dude, it's hot today. I hated it. It's all this negative self-talk, right? And so I have them write out all these things, and it's easier if they're coming off a summer, if they're in the summer at that time. And it's even sad. It's almost hard for me to read some of the things I catch myself saying to myself.
Yeah.
Right. So then what I do is I say, hey, I want you to think you're a parent now, okay? And you're your kid's coach. And I want you to say the things that you just said to yourself to your kid.
Yeah.
And I have people think about this, and it's interesting to watch their faces. It's and I think about my own daughter. Yeah. Can you imagine me being a coach of her and saying, dude, you suck. You're the worst. You can't do this. Mm-hmm. Why are you even out here? You're never going to amount to anything. And I tell people, I'm like, dude, what kind of coach would that be? Can you imagine that type of coach? So now I tell people, and this is again the process I want people to go through with belief, is now go write down what you think the best coach in the world would say to you. Mm-hmm. The best version of that. And I have them write these things down. Dude, you're amazing. You can do this. I believe in you. Dude, you're so amazing. All these things. And I say, now look, we all discount ourselves. Dude, we are our most important coach. And so I think a huge reason why door-to-door sales is hard is because we don't master that self-talk. We let ourselves be this toxic coach. We might be listening to the good books and listening to the good podcasts and training, but then when we're out there on the field, dude, we just beat ourselves up. And that, if you start to pump belief into yourself, dude, I can do this. I believe in myself. I love myself, dude. I'm so happy I'm here.
Yeah.
Dude, the power that comes within is crazy. And then I think about it with sports, dude. I think about when Tom Brady, you know, we all know that famous game, or even this last Super Bowl, right? You look at Patrick Mahomes. I like to think about what Andy Reid said to them in halftime. They're down by like 10 or what, 7. Do you think Andy Reid was like, you guys suck? Dude, you're embarrassing me. You guys aren't gonna go out there and win. Like, good luck even trying. No, dude, I imagine him pumping belief. Dude, guys, you've worked to get here. I believe in you. I believe in the work you've put in. I know that you're capable of this. So belief is something that I think we are the biggest contributors to our belief or our lack of belief. And once you understand that, you can totally change your life. You can start pumping yourself full of belief. And there's a lot of processes that I love to train on. Again, if anyone wants to talk about that, hit me up on Instagram @_Swandy, SWANDY. That's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah. Because
it's not a sales thing. As a society, I think we're kind of toxic. I think we're really mean to ourselves, and I think we beat ourselves up. And that's something that I've been working on over the last 10 years is teaching processes and things that we can do to start to rewire our brains, to be a coach that we would be proud to have. To be a coach that if we wrote down the things we said to ourselves and we said those to our kids, we wouldn't be depressed. We'd be like, wow, I'm glad I'm saying that to my kids. Does that make sense? So,
dude, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Because literally, it's like you said, this isn't even door to door anymore. This is life.
For sure.
And like, this is probably the most life-changing principle anyone could ever go apply.
Dude, and I believe it. I believe that there are people listening to this podcast. Dude, we all have things. We all have trauma. We all have things that hold us back. We have these reasons that we tell ourselves we can't do things, right?
Yeah.
And learning how to control that part of your mind and flip the script and believe in yourself, dude, it is like, again, it's life-changing. And dude, one thing that it's brought me is a ton of happiness.
Yeah.
And so, dude, belief is everything. I think that belief is never neutral. That's a really important principle that I teach is your belief is either increasing or decreasing. So ask yourself the question, what am I doing to increase my belief? What am I saying to myself that's increasing my belief? And dude, I believe my favorite story to articulate this is the Wright brothers. Can you imagine what people said to them? Again, no one was ever flying. There's no such thing as, planes.
Yeah.
And there's these two brothers that are like, hey, dude, we're gonna put people into the air, like birds.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how dumb that sounds? Like in that
totally,
time?
Yeah.
That story is a testament to the power of belief. I bet in their quiet moments, it wasn't, oh, dude, you guys can't do this. Everyone's right. You can't put people into the air like birds. It was like, hey, guys, you can do this.
Yeah.
Hey, no matter how many failures, we'll figure this out. I believe in you. You can do this. And so to me, that's my favorite story that I think of. Like I still struggle with lack of self-belief at times. And I love to think of the Wright brothers. That's the power of belief.
Absolutely. It literally can make you do the impossible.
For sure.
So what's crazy about it too, is it's also easier said than done.
100%.
We can hype ourselves up and give ourselves all the affirmations all day. But when it gets hard, when that rookie rep is out there and he's getting his face kicked in and he's having a very hard time believing in himself and thinking positive thoughts, how are you empowering him?
So the first answer to that is hopefully I've done some stuff beforehand that have prepared him for that moment. Again, hopefully he's had trainings and things with me or within the organization that he knows that those moments are going to come. And I try as a leader to prepare my people for those moments so that they already have a plan and a system in place, right? Yeah. But I will give you what I think is a life hack to that exact moment is I tell people, again, your mind is a stage. You cannot, because your mind is a stage, when you're awake, it's always on. And you cannot have two thoughts at the same time. It's impossible. You can try it. You can have ADD like me and go from one thought to the other thought really quickly.
Yeah.
You can only have one thought. Well, thoughts lead to feelings and emotions and eventually to actions, right? So when I know a rookie rep, dude, he's on the curb, he's crying, everything's gone wrong. I know that what I need to help him with is his thoughts. So I say, hey, and I'm a big believer in 3x5 cards. So, or if he doesn't have a 3x5 card, tell him to pull out his notes and I say, write out a positive statement about yourself. Dude, I love myself. I'm amazing. I can do this. And I say, look, you can't have two thoughts at the same time. So right now you're having negative thoughts, but you can control what's on your stage. So every time you read that, it is impossible for you to have that other thought. And so I do that, right? I write out these statements when I'm having these negative thoughts. Instead of thinking the negative thought, I push something else onto my stage.
Yeah.
I can do this. I believe. And if I can get a rookie rep or any rep to start saying that more than I can't do this, everyone's mean, I can't be successful, dude, I know it's going to change. So to answer your question, in those moments, hopefully I've already prepared them for that. But in the actual moment, I try to get them to write something down that's positive. Hey, dude, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong today. Write down something positive. Write down, dude, like, I want you to hype yourself up. Tell me how good you are at this job, how much you believe in yourself. And I want you to just read that over and over and over and over again until that other thought you were having is just gone.
Yeah. That's something, again, I think of Seeger calling Garth and he's just like, I'm the best. I'm the best to ever do this. And it's like, because he genuinely, those are probably 90% of his thoughts.
Yeah.
Is I'm the best. And then lo and behold, he's the best.
Literally, right? And I think it comes into a lot of things, right? What I think, and going back to a couple questions ago, something that's wrong in not the industry, it's in life, right? Is we underestimate the power of what we can personally do when we are happy, right? And so those moments, like what we're teaching, right, is, dude, find a way to like be happy, right? Find a way to focus on the positive, not the negative. Mm-hmm. And when you are, I'll tell you this. I mean, I've sold when I hate the rain, and I've sold when I love the rain. I sell way better if when it's raining, even though I really don't like the rain, I say to myself over and over again, I love the rain. I love the rain. I love the rain. And all of a sudden I start to feel happier in the rain. Yeah. Because again, our thoughts influence our feelings and our emotions. And when I'm happy, I sell better. And so sometimes it is in those moments, almost lying to yourself. Dude, it's raining, or you're knocking behind someone and it sucks. Dude, you can look through my notes tab on all my iPads every year. You can tell whatever I was struggling with that day, because I've written a statement in the opposite. I have statements that read like this. I love knocking behind other reps. I love that it's so hot and I'm so glad it's not cold. I sell in any area. So if you look at that, what was probably happening that day? Dude, I was probably knocking behind a rep.
Behind someone and it was hot.
And it was really hot and I hated it. And so instead of, focusing on those thoughts, which the more I think about them will foster this like negative feeling, which I'm not going to sell as well. Dude, I focus on something different. And even if I don't truly believe that, I say it until I do believe it. And again, I end up selling in those situations because I'm happy. Does that make sense?
100%. Well, sales is a transfer of energy.
Yes.
It's a transfer of emotion. If you're depressed, that's why I believe a lot of rookies end up not selling very well, is because they're so in their head and they're so caught up in that negative tornado that when they show up to the door, maybe they say the pitch word for word, but what's the customer seeing? And what's the energy that they're receiving? It's all negative. It's, hey, I actually really don't believe in myself. I really don't believe you need this product. I really don't want to be here. Please tell me no.
Yeah. And I have a thought on that, right? That another thing that, again, rookies specifically struggle with is they define their success wrong. And I think we all do this sometimes. I try to help myself and other people really define success in multiple ways, but a huge way is in progress. And so a rookie, typically when they're on the curb, they're crying, they hate their life, right? It's because they're only defining their success as when they get a sale. So what I do is I'll ask them this series of questions, dude. Well, how many people have you talked to today? How many people have you got past your intro with? How many people have you got? And you start going through the list, right? And all of a sudden I go to them, well, dude, I know you haven't sold anyone today, but you haven't gotten past the intro once. So dude, what if in the next hour you got past the intro twice? Dude, are you getting better? Yes. And dude, can you find confidence in that? Yes. And can you be proud of yourself? Yes. And so it's also teaching people to find success in the progress, not just in the end goal.
Stacking any dub you can.
Exactly. And dude, what's funny is when you start to see that, you end up getting more sales anyway, right? So.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, maybe I don't have the energy to make a sale, but I do have the energy to make someone smile.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I do have the energy to like knock one more door.
For sure.
Which might give me a little bit of momentum. Maybe it's a lay down, and then that unlocks everything else the rest of the day, which is, gosh, all powerful principles here.
For sure.
So any other thoughts on belief?
Oh, man.
It's so good. I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah. I think belief is hard, right? Like, I believe that belief is hard, right? Yeah. And I think it's something that we are all working on. And I think that, I love writing things down because it helps me articulate my thoughts. And so I will do this often, like, dude, what am I doing to work on my belief right now? And I should have a large evidence of things that I'm doing. And it's not just training. It's reading books. It's, doing hard things. There's a variety of ways you can increase your belief. So ask yourself that question often. What am I doing to increase my belief? And if you're not doing things, don't beat yourself up. Just start doing things that will increase your belief. Trying to think of anything else about belief. If you want to hear a really good 8-minute video by Jesse Itzler, look it up on YouTube, type in Jesse Itzler, The Words You Speak Matter. And the summary of that is there was a guy that took someone who had never run more than 4 miles or 5 miles. That was the most he'd ever run. And he got him to finish a 100-mile race by repeating over and over again, I will not quit, I will not quit. So I think belief is something that is very tied to, again, just the way we speak to ourselves. So be very cautious about that. If you want to have more belief, start being aware of what you are saying to yourself and what those thoughts are doing to you, right?
Absolutely.
And then put yourself in environments where, dude, when your belief is low, other people's belief is going to pick you up, right? That's why, again, I love what I do. I love my work. I love the industry that I'm in because I have so many guys around me that, dude, like my belief isn't always unreal, right? But when it's down, I have all these people in my corner that are increasing my belief. And again, it's that power of proximity. You can be a trailblazer of belief, and that's cool. But I'd rather be in a big group that's all working on belief together, if that makes sense.
100%.
So, and then the last thing about belief, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. I think that as a society, like we can change the world if we increase our belief and believe bigger things, right? Like I figured it out. I knew where I was trying to go with this. So here's the thing, right? You want to know about belief? Go hang out with a little kid. Like if you have a nephew or a niece, dude, when you talk to like a 5-year-old, dude, they don't let the concept of reality distort their belief. Dude, they want to be a fireman. They believe they will be a fireman or an astronaut or a millionaire. I have a book from when I was in kindergarten. Dude, it is so funny to read some of the things I totally 100% believed I could do. I was going to have an NBA championship. I was going to have an MLB ring. I was going to have a Super Bowl, like everything, right?
Yeah.
I was going to have every Xbox game ever created ever. That was literally one of the things I wrote. So if you want to learn about belief, dude, watch how kids believe. They just believe. And what happens is, why is it that we're born with this? Because I believe kids are born with this like belief. And as we get older, the world like dampens that belief. Makes us like, no, don't believe you can do something crazy, to get realistic, But when you really look at the world is built off people that didn't lose that. The Elon Musks, right? The Steve Jobs, those are the people that didn't lose that childhood belief. So, and I think about my own daughter. My whole life now revolves around thinking about what type of parent I'm going to be, right? And dude, I want my daughter to believe things now and in 20 years believe she can do anything.
Yeah.
But I have to put in the work now so that I believe that. And I have to teach her principles and do things that help her not lose that belief. So dude, I hope my kid comes to me one day and says something crazy. Hey dad, I want to go to this. And I want to be like, cool. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I believe you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah.
So, but belief is such a cool thing. But I think if you think about it from a logical timeline standpoint, we are all born with belief, like crazy belief.
Yeah.
Something happens as we get older where we lose that. Let's as a society get back to believing we can accomplish great things. And then we're going to have way more Elon Musk, the Wright brothers, and so on and so forth.
Totally. Dude, this has been nothing but nuggets. And I got one more.
Okay.
As a father, we're about to have our first kid here in a couple weeks.
Congrats.
What advice do you have?
Dude, being a parent's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's not even close. So my advice is this. Dude, be someone, let me think. This is a deep question, so I want to make sure I answer it correctly. Wow. Dude, I could talk for a whole hour about this, so I'm just trying to, summarize it. Dude, my biggest advice is ask yourself, what type of parent do you want to be? And I've asked myself that question a lot, right? And dude, even just thinking about my daughter makes me super emotional, right? About the type of, I want her to have a parent that like loves her and that she knows she's loved and she knows that she is believed in and that there's nothing that she can do that will lose that, right? And so then I think often like, am I living up to that, right? I want to be the parent that doesn't want to create some version of my child that makes me happy. Like I want to raise a self. I want to raise my daughter and to love her for who she is. And then I've learned that it goes back to my favorite quote, dude, parents may tell, but never teach unless they practice what they preach. So dude, if you want your daughter to be a dreamer, you got to be a dreamer. Dude, if you want your daughter to accomplish great things, then you have to be willing to try to go out and accomplish great things. Dude, I know that my daughter will fail at times. And if I want my daughter to get back on her feet and keep trying, then every time I fail, I have to get back on my feet and keep trying, right? So just know that you're always teaching your, child, and be intentional. And you're not going to be perfect, just like I'm not going to be perfect. You won't have it all figured out. But I hope that I am someone that, again, my last quote, and I don't remember where I heard this, was like, dude, a true indication of like a good parent is when your kids are older, do they want to hang out with you? And I hope that my whole life, dude, I just experience life with my daughter. I hope that, we find the things that she's really excited about. And I don't care what that is. She wants to play softball, be a cheerleader, whatever it is, dude, I'm going to be the crazy dad. It's like, if she's playing softball, I'm getting kicked out of games because I'm so involved in the game. If she's a cheerleader, dude, I'm dressing up, whatever it is. Like, dude, I want to be her biggest supporter, her biggest fan club, where the world is going to tell her no, I'm going to tell her, yes, you can do this. So dude, and I would say my other piece of advice, dude, is get ready for like the best thing that's ever happened in your entire life. Dude, I wrote in my journal the other day, what makes me happy? And every single thing came back to like these little moments with my daughter. And don't be afraid. Yeah. This is my other thing, is don't be afraid to experience life with her, right? Like I like skateboarding, and so I take my daughter to the skate park with me, right? Yeah. It's fun to like do things with your kids, right? So experience life with her, dude. I love playing dolls with my daughter. It's so fun to come into her world. So don't be afraid to, come down to your kids' level, play with them, have an imagination with them. It's, dude, way excited for you, Roz. It's going to be, like I said, it's not even close to the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I love it, man. Thank you so, so much. And dude, thank you for every single nugget you dropped on here. This has been one of the most fire podcasts, honestly, that we've had.
Thank you.
So everyone, I hope you took amazing notes. We went through recruiting, leadership, belief, like all these incredible principles. Do not skip out. Re-listen to this episode, take notes, take better notes, and then go apply this. This has been awesome. So, thanks. Dude, thank you for coming on, and everyone keep tuning in. Golden Door Deep Dive. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, dude.